introduce Dr. Mahendra Ranjikar. He is professor at College of Engineering, Pune, with a vast experience in teaching and research of more than 35 years. His research interest mainly lies in bioengineering, bioprocess development, reactor design, agriculture, biotechnology, etc. And he has published in many international and national journals. He has guided more than 22 PG students and has developed and transferred technology for the betterment of the society. He has organized one TEQIP course and acted as a resource person for various workshops and conferences. He is associated with IEEE Microbiology Society of India at various power and capabilities. He has many feathers in his credit, including significant contribution in the transformation of COEP hostel while working as a chief rector in COEP hostel. So he is a chief coordinator Unnat Bharat and Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan and as a faculty advisor for Spandan activity. I hereby welcome Dr. Ranjikar to enlighten us on the wastewater treatment and usage. Over to you, Ranjikar sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody who has joined this session. And a special thanks to Dr. Vandana for giving a very big introduction of me. Actually, what I have done is very simple things I have done. I'm not a great scientist or great researcher. Whatever I have experienced while working in the field, that I have tried to put it into some research domain. That's all I have done. I have another experience. Actually, I have not quoted in my biodata that I have been trained as an NCC officer in Indian Army, and therefore that experience of setting a camp and dealing with the waste, that may be solid hazardous waste or that may be water, that is wastewater as well as water, that also has given me some inputs while working as captain in Indian Army under NCC. And as a chief rector, you have correctly mentioned, it's quite a big hostel, and now that hostel we have implemented few things, particularly for the wastewater treatment and reuse of the water. So I'll be in this lecture of 2 hours. It is rather I am under tension that I am talking to all teachers and researchers. I am, as I have mentioned, that I am not a very great researcher, but I have tried to inculcate some of the very small research points, but that may create big things. So I'll be dividing, or I have divided my lecture into a few things. As a microbiologist, I'll give little more emphasis on microbial aspects or microbiological aspects, or you can say biological treatment of wastewater. And I'll be trying to give, because all our teachers, everybody is expert in his or her domain, and many of I was told that many of you are engineers, some of you are from environmental engineering or environmental science background, and therefore it will be easy for me, rather not difficult, but it will be very easy for me to transform, to give my thoughts to you, and at least I can discuss with you. I'm just sharing my experiences and views with you. It's not a kind of teaching, because we all are teachers. So I'll be talking on philosophy of wastewater, generation of wastewater, and then on the philosophy of the treatment of the wastewater. With few experiences I have gathered during working on the field, actually. Being the member and officer in National Service Scheme while teaching to graduate students, and then as a Dr. Vandana Madam has given in the introduction that I was coordinator for Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan. The big schemes, those were initiated by central government and government of Maharashtra, and then a NGO, that is Spandan, we were also working in this area for quite a long time. So I'll be just sharing my experiences. It will not be, I have not treated it as a teaching and learning, but I am sure that some new things, new points we will definitely will pick up from my talk. So actually, this lecture I am taking from my native place, which is almost 30-35 kilometers from Pune. We can call it as a peri-urban area. I'll start one very interesting experience which I have taken during working in this area. It's a social work I was doing, and in Unnat Bharat, as we have adopted few villages, our village, my own village, is also included in that list. And we were working on contours and how to deal with the wastewater and all that. So one office bearer from Jilla Parishad, he came to know, he came to my village, and then he said, "Sir, please take my village also and please help us." And very interesting experience he had shared. He's a politically associated with few parties and a office bearer of Panchayat Samiti. So these are the hierarchical, say, institutions in the development of our villages. So his village is around 10 kilometers from my village, and very interesting to note. I just want to share this with you because many of the times, many of you also are interested in some of the social work somewhere you will be doing, and maybe you are, few of you will be are associated with your Unnat Bharat, or maybe associated, or you are associated in your college or universities with some NGOs like Spandan, or a group of students who is working with all these areas, or in all these areas. I have found that there is much to do in this area. Still, as we say that India is living in the villages, and it is true that the technological development we are doing in the university or under the roof of the university and big institutions has not been reached to. Um, I don't know. I don't want to blame ourselves or themselves also. Either the villagers might have not approached us, or maybe the vice versa, that we have not approached them. Um, so he was telling that uh, this is a, as I mentioned, that this is a peri-urban area, and his village is exactly immediately after the octroi post. Now the GST is there, but few years back there was octroi that is levied upon all the incoming vehicles, the goods purchased by the businessmen coming from outside cities, and therefore there was the octroi post. So to escape from that, many of the industries and some other institutions, they also they established after the octroi limit, and his village was populated with the people working in some transports and some smaller industries, small scale or medium scale industries. So many of the localites, they have constructed uh, 3-4 storied building or 2 storied building with one room kitchen type of accommodations. And these people who were working in the nearby industries, they found it very uh, say attractive that they are living there only with a small amount of rent they have to pay. So the engineers who has constructed those buildings, naturally that time there was no sewage treatment as such, and at individual level we used to construct. Now also we are constructing the septic tank. Okay, you all know your engineers. So that engineer has constructed that septic tank sufficient for all the population living in that building, project with some projection. And the black water was collected over there. The gray water was, as usual, is released on the roads. Uh, I just want, you must also must have experienced this. anywhere in all villages we go. Nowadays, this government last 4 or 5 years, even in Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, we were told, we have surveyed the villages we have adopted, and the open defecation free, that is ODF, was the main mission that was given to all district collectors. And whenever whoever they have asked for the funding for construction of the latrines, toilets in their houses, that was given. So all villages now, they are ODF, that is open defecation free. And therefore in the villages we will find the black water is taken care of. The only what is released on the roads usually, that is the grey water. And that was the scenario there in that village also. So the grey water was running on the roads, and that was a problem. It was stinking and everything, what we generally observe. So being the politically active village, they have approached the government agencies, and government has approved the underground drainage system for that village. And the engineer, they have given the task of, they have done the contours. One small river, it was going, we can say big nala, and that was carrying the rainwater, storm water, as well as because of this contour, everything, that slope was there in that rivulet or in that nala only. And that nala was having a KTVR, where the water was collected, and that there they have dug the common well for water supply lines in the village, and that water was used for drinking purposes, other supplied from by Gram Panchayat. So underground system is made. So instead of just putting the grey water into it, they have asked the building owners to stop that connection, break the connection for the septic tank and put it into underground system. And now they have done it. They thought that this is the development. And then now every day, 24 hours, 365 days, they are receiving that water into that nala, ultimately into that KTVR. So he was asking us to give to Unnat Bharat as well as to CYP to give the solution for this. So I have asked one MTech girl to uh, go to the village, get the survey done. She has done a very good work. The project was submitted to Gram Panchayat. And then I asked them one question, okay, we will give you, and even the sewage treatment plant can be installed. You have the place there, you have money with your Gram Panchayat. Government also will help you. Will it be possible for you civic authority, that is Gram Panchayat, to run that treatment plant forever? Because it is a live process. Because it, okay, there are the physical processes, the unit operations will be there, like the screening, bar screen, etc., etc. There will be the, but unit processes, that is where the microbial activity that has been involved, will it be possible for you to run it forever? uh, in a humor I told him, jab tak suraj chand rahega, wo to gaon ko karna hai, that village has to do it, means that civic authority has to do it. And because energy also is involved, the pumps are involved in it. There is breakdown, something that maintenance is operation and maintenance. O&M also will have to be looked after by that Gram Panchayat. So, is it possible? Then I said, you talk to the villagers, and then we can go ahead with this. But this is what is the scenario at on ground, uh, because they thought that making it underground and putting everything into that drainage will keep the city or that village clean. That has they have, yes, it has been done. The water which was running on the roads, that was stopped, but that water which was carried over to somewhere, means into their drinking, near the drinking well, that has made, I don't know how come they have thought like this, but this is the scenario, practical scenario. The other experience I just want to share with you, it's kind of a humor you can very well find out. In under NSS, okay, we were working in one village on the camp for, it is a 10 days camp, and same problem in all villages. When this toilet scheme was not implemented, means few years back, maybe a decade back, the open defecation was a common scenario on all roads approaching to the villages, and therefore the black water was, maybe the amount was less, that the water amount was not generated much, because the villagers, they were going around in the proximity. So the gray water, that is the water coming out of kitchen, bathrooms, that was a problem. So we have suggested them that we would install the soak pits. So it was a 10 days camp. The households number was very less, 50 or 75 something. So we thought that we would do it as a uh, activity for the social activity. So we brought all the material and we asked them to help us, but they were not helping. They were standing hands held, and were just looking at us what we are doing. And then we put the earthen pot, then some gravels, then coal, some salt, and everything. And we have done it, and the village was very clean. We did say maybe by the time we left the village, it was very clean. So last day we have asked our students to go and tell them that you have to recharge it. You have to take it out after maybe after 1 year, or when you find that it is saturated and the water is not been absorbed there, soaked there, you have to take it out, dry it, and again put it. It's a matter of 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe one day. We asked the students to pass on this message to the villagers. So one lady, they were telling, that lady was very happy. She said, "Thank you. You have done great job for our village and for our house. That now that water is been absorbed here only. It is not running on the roads. And when will you be coming next year again to clean that soak pit?" So they thought that the students who are from different places of Maharashtra, and working for that village, they are paid servants by government, and because of that they are doing this. But this particular, what you say, public awareness, that is required. So the philosophy of wastewater treatment, that philosophy of the methods, that is different. The philosophical approach here, I just want to share uh, by giving few examples. In my own village, we may be knowing that there is a Gram Sabha every 15th of August, then 26th of January. Now because of Corona, they are not conducted. And then the 1st of May, that is Maharashtra Day. And whenever required, they can call Gram Sabha. All the villagers are supposed to come, and they may pass some resolution there. So being the resident of this village, I also attend that Gram Sabha. So my village is in the valley, surrounded by hills, and therefore the contours, and the one river is flowing, which is maybe, yes, to sometimes it is perennial source, till April that water runs. But we are having ample amount of water. Household is 250. The voting is around 1200 or 1300, and the total population is not going beyond 2000. So as per the international standards, we calculate that how much water is required per unit, that is per head. Even the sewage treatment plants, they are designed considering the 150 liters per head per day. So that much is the generation of wastewater, and we are designing that wastewater plant accordingly. So this water is running through our fields at one end of the village, and then naturally to the river, naturally, because the contour goes like that. So we have requested few farmers to use this water for irrigation. He was also ready, but his condition was that, sir, okay, as you say, we will use it, but we should not hamper, it should not interfere in the crop pattern, and it should not damage the soil structure. Okay, my field, agriculture field. Then we have tested that sample in our laboratory. The major problem, that is what I just want to share with you, is it was having huge, the pH was alkaline, highly alkaline, because of the soaps and detergents we are using. If we go back some decades back, maybe in a, say now I'm 60, so in my childhood, if I go, the use of the soaps was very limited, very much limited. I don't remember that time. My in my family, uh, we brought the soaps to clean the utensils. Okay, it was cleaned either with the brick powder or with the ash. Now also many of the villagers, they are using this, but the use of soaps and detergents has extended uh, to so much. The use of the paste, then use of the soaps, that has made this wastewater which is coming out of the houses highly alkaline, and in the preliminary treatment you cannot deal with it, so you have to go for again few treatments for the removal of, or that is equalization, or say neutralization, you can say. And therefore the philosophy of using less water, the theorem, I always say that when the grid, our demand increases, we start supplying that demand. We start supplying that demand. So in my village, I was just surprised to know that peon of Gram Panchayat told me that, sir, we are supplying water 3 to 4 times, 1 lakh liter for a 50,000 liters for 2,000 population. You can just calculate how much it is. So that amount that has been released as wastewater, and therefore that wastewater means catering to that volume itself is not possible for the Gram Panchayats. Our Gram Panchayat area has got so many industries, so it is quite relatively wealthy Gram Panchayat. But still, we find it difficult that how to deal with this wastewater. How to deal with this wastewater? So can we educate the people for not using that? See what is happening. I have stayed in Pune. We know how the students, they were using the water, being a chief rector. I just want to correct it. I think that just now I remembered. Now I'm retired from COAP recently in September. So, but still I'm associated with Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan there in COAP. So we have seen the psychology of the people using the water. Uh, in our syllabus, we have got all the treatment methods, they are at fingertips. Even on Google, if we add some, say, MBBR, all the information, the videos, images, everything will come. Nowhere in the syllabus we are talking on this philosophy of educating the people how to optimize the use of water, how to optimize the use of water. That is very much important, because where we will stop, how many wastewater treatment plants we will design. Okay, it is true that for the industries it is mandatory, it is a in the act. So environmental protection or environmental act, they have to construct it, they have to design, they have to run it, they have to run it. Many of the times these plants are constructed, designed, constructed, but they are not in use, not in work. There are several reasons. One reason is we are not interested to run it. Second reason is we don't have the expertise to run it. We don't have the expertise to run it. The reason, the important reason is what is happening when the water is released into the environment. it is polluting the soil. We are talking of the soil pollution, we are talking of the water pollution. It means that when this water, untreated water, is released into the river or into the streams or in lakes or in canals or in sea, the microbial load, that is the microorganisms which are growing at the expense of organic compounds present in that sewage or wastewater, they are utilizing the oxygen, and there is a depletion of oxygen. So that particular lake or that particular stream, that particular part of the lake or part of the stream or the river, the aquatic life is endangered. And we are always, means whatever treatment methods we are studying or we are teaching, these treatment methods are aimed at reducing that pollution, the water pollution and the soil pollution, and therefore the permissible limits are put forth by the state pollution control board or central pollution control board, CPCB, that these are the permissible limits for any discharge water, any wastewater that is been discharged into or disposed into the environment. Maybe the soil, ultimately it is percolated, going into the subsurface aquifers, and then ultimately is adding to the water bodies. And therefore, these permissible limits, we have to bring down all those parameters to that permissible limit. And this is not job of once or one time job. Every day, because the parameters are so vibrant of any wastewater, that the person who is looking after that, may be environmentalist, that may be an engineer, that may be a microbiologist, that may be biotechnologist, anybody who is working dealing with that will have to be more cautious. And such expertise or such techniques or technology we have, but as I said, at the gram panchayat level or village level, will it be possible? Will it be possible? And therefore, I always thought of, while working in the field, I always thought of, can we give them some alternative? We will be studying all those treatment methods in, we have 2 hours to discuss and share our views. I was always thinking that, can we give some low cost technology, sustainable technology for particularly for the villages? Because sewage treatment plants, bar industries, I'm not talking of industries, I'm talking of the corporations or municipalities, even small few corporations, they are running these wastewater plants effectively. Many small cities, emerging cities, um, these sewage treatment plants, they, it's not possible for them, maybe because of the cost. That is the main crux, that is, the cost is very high, and low cost technology we have to adopt, and we have to work on it for the low cost technology. I'll just give a scenario. A village is there, my village, say for example, and our so I have a small farmhouse at my farm. So we have of course we have a bathroom, kitchen, basin, sink, then toilet. For the toilet, right, septic tank is the best option, individual level, single dwelling units, so it has been done. The major problem is with the gray water that is coming out of bathrooms. So very simple. So I am growing some uh, cochleaceous, that is we call alu. So this, the leaves can be eaten as sabji, and so this is a common scenario in the village. If you go, canna indica, we can grow canna indica. You get the flowers also. It looks very nice. Different colors are there. So can it be possible that so for that matter, even the bamboos, they grow very nicely on this. Uh, Apart from, we are teaching biomagnification and some material that gets magnified into these vegetables and in all this. So the philosophy, what I just want to discuss, share with you is, can we reduce the use of water, number one, and can we have the low cost technologies, low cost technology um, for the water treatment. This technology in COAP that has been used by Navatech, that was a program, uh, the funding by Department of Science and Technology, almost 90 lakhs funding was there by Department of Technology, DST, and this the whole setup. I'll be explaining that in the fag end of my lecture. So we can grow some plants, and this water which can be reused. So as I mentioned in my village, that farmer was ready to use it for his irrigation purpose. So we have to bring that say water to the permissible limit for that particular okay, I'll just share my screen. Where can I find the share screen?
Sir, it's here, three dots.
Yeah.
Nearby these three dots, there is one present now icon.
Whiteboard, change layout, full screen apply, use a
Honey,
phone.
after on the left of this, you can see present now.
No, I can see the microphone, video, then turn on
And
captions,
then
raise hand,
raise hand, and then you have present now.
present now. Okay, okay, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Present now.
You can click over
Present.
here.
Your entire screen.
Yes, either
Share
you
karna.
if either you can present your entire screen, a window or a tab.
Okay,
So
okay, share.
if you have a presentation of yours, so you can
Yeah,
share from the window.
yeah, yes. Okay, okay. Share mandala. प्रेझेंट नाव मध्ये त्यांनी सांगितलं प्रेझेंट नाव मध्ये जा हा प्रेझेंट नाव मध्ये विंडो शेअर म्हणता येईल नाही इथे आहे शेअर Can it be visible?
No.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, no. Okay. Okay, I have
Otherwise,
requested my son.
yeah. Now it is. Yeah, sir.
Visible?
Now it is. Now it is visible.
Visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, with this philosophy in my mind of actually, like. There is one presentation of mine worked on environmental humanism, that we have to always think of ourselves as part of this universe. Generally, it is said that biologists are little philosophical. We are not materialistic because we know that there are so many complex phenomenon, complex processes going on in the nature, and many of the times we cannot control them. And therefore, as we are part of the nature, we have to use these resources, natural resources, very judiciously. And it's not happening, particularly in the era of use and throw philosophy or mindset. We are not treating water as we are treating water as a commodity. and I can buy that commodity, so I am using it at my will. This is the philosophy that has been grown widely, and therefore we must un- uncover the syllabus. I have heard my friends in staff room saying that अरे मेरा हो गया cover syllabus, मैंने syllabus cover कर लिया. So I think we should uncover it, not covering it. Whatever the syllabus, whatever the topics, we must tell our students how to understand in between the lines. So as I mentioned, wastewater is the polluted form of water generated from rainwater runoff. That is the storm water, and it is called sewage, typically categorized, which is generated as a domestic sewage or industrial sewage or storm sewage. Uh, in many of the cities, again, there comes the funding problem, and there come the financial aspects. Uh, Two separate lines, that is the sewage lines and storm water line. Like in Pune, we have got two separate lines. The storm line is different, which carries rainwater taking to river and or taking to other water bodies depending upon the contours or slopes, and the sewerage line, which is taking that sewage to sewage treatment plants. So now, for most of the corporations, I don't know about other corporations, but in Pune, uh, Pune Corporation is not taking the solid waste now from the housing complexes or even the educational institutes. So we have to take care of the garden waste. Garden waste is not taken care by corporation now. Initially, they were previously they were taking that, and they were dumping it somewhere in the dumping yard. Now they are not taking, so all the housing complexes and the institutions, they have to take care of the garden waste, convert it into the compost and use it again. That is the recycling and reuse of that material. So wastewater also can be recycled and we can use it. The only thing is, uh, depending upon the characteristics of that sewage, we have to finalize, we have to design that uh, sewage treatment plant. So coming to physical characteristics of the sewage, is very difficult to put it. Like many times I tell the diabetic patients, many of the diabetic patients, they check their sugar every day or maybe one alternate day. I always tell them, why do you do this? Because this is very vibrant. Even BP. Similarly, the characteristics of sewage will be very different from even time to time. In a daytime, in the household or in the housing complex, if you collect the sewage sample in the morning, and the volume also will be more, the characteristics will also be different than the afternoon. Afternoon, there may not be any activity in the house, and therefore even the volume will be nil. And in the evening again the volume will increase. So temperature, depending upon the ambient temperature, room temperature, environment temperature, the temperature of that sewage also differs. uh, all these characteristics actually will define the microbiome or microbiota, or we can say the microbial load of the sewage. The temperature, this is in physical only temperature. Then color, it differs, usually brown to black, depending again on the soluble material present in that. Then color, say the dyeing industries, the color of the uh, say wastewater will be different. Then the odor also will again differ from say even uh, housing complex to housing complex, and depending on the industries also. Same is the case with turbidity. Turbidity depends on the material is suspended into it. The chemical characteristics that is important in organic matters, and this organic matters is related with the biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand. We can say BOD. All the time we talk of BOD of the water. Then chlorides, NaCl, and some sulfides also that appear into wastewater. Then the dissolved oxygen, which is very, very important. Whenever that water is exposed to the environment, the oxygen gets dissolved into it. And the pH also, as I mentioned in my village, when we have tested this sewage water, that is the grey water I'm talking. Now, in all the villages, the issue of black water that has been very don't you think that some decades back, 2-3 decades back, not much, the human fecal matter or human feces, human stool, was considered the best fertilizer. In one Unnat Bharat workshop, uh, we had a retired IITian who was working in this field in Gujarat. He was discussing with us, not on the platform, but discussing with us that this open defecation, okay, we are talking of making defecation free villages and all that, this is good. But at the same time, are we not deprived of, or farmers are not deprived of a good, say, fertilizer, mature fertilizer, if properly treated? In Marathi, it was called as sonkhat, like a gold. So it was a black gold fertilizer, okay, if properly treated. So this treatment, particularly nowadays in septic tank gets overflowed, not properly managed. The water activity is not proper, because all this, again, when I am saying that sewage treatment, it's a biological process, and therefore we have to take care of all those microbiota, those cells. We have to feed them, we have to give them proper water and everything. So, and the dissolved oxygen also. And therefore the chemical characteristics of this sewage also varies. And this is the biological characteristics. There are I have deleted few names. These are few names of bacteria, like aerobic bacteria, Zuglia, remigera, Flavorbacterium, Nocardia, Achromobacter, Nitromonas. All these are the bacteria which require aerobic, say, oxygen for their growth. Anaerobic means they grow in absence of oxygen. They grow in absence of oxygen. And if you have visited some biogas plant, and there we will find that this anaerobic, say, microbial load is very high. Clostridium sporogenes, Bifidobacterium, Peptococcus, methanogens. These are the two groups, aerobic and anaerobic, which are very commonly found in wastewater. Very commonly found in wastewater. See, because this water is generated, that is the anthropogenic source, that is human activity, and therefore there are some pathogens obviously will come into the wastewater, and those pathogens, they are Salmonella, Escherichia, Shigella, Campylobacter, and so on and so forth, which are disease causing organisms. If you write down the name, say, word disease, and put a hyphen after DIS, you will understand what does it mean. Very interesting to note. DIS hyphen EASE, that makes you dis-ease. You are not at ease, and therefore this is disease. So pathos, again, these are the Latin words. Pathos meaning suffering. So it causes suffering to the human body or humans, and therefore these are termed as pathogen. Some are termed, all other organisms which are not growing, not causing any suffering, they are called as saprophytes. Sapros meaning dead and decaying material. So in composting, whether it is aerobic or anaerobic, both ways, the compost or the decomposition of that complex materials that takes place, there the saprophytes, they are dominating. They are the saprophytes, they are dominating. These pathogens like Escherichia coli, this is, if you are civil, maybe many of you are civil engineers, you might have studied, this is considered to be index of water pollution. In drinking water treatment plants, the presence of Escherichia always is tested. Always is tested. So every batch after purification, the presence of E. coli, that is fecal coliform, it is also called as fecal coliform. So Escherichia coli or E. coli is considered to be an index of water pollution. So this organism is commonly found in human intestine. 95% Indians they carry this organism, and this is termed pathogen. This causes infection only in infants, and if the immunity is quite compromised, then maybe in the adults also. These are all the abdominal infections. Salmonella causes typhoid. The paratyphoid, this is another species in this group, Salmonella paratyphi, that causes paratyphoid. Shigella dysentery, the name suggests it causes dysentery. So all these, and Campylobacter, again abdominal discomfort. So all these organisms, they are causing one or the other disease in the human body, provided all other parameters are, say, fulfilled, means their number and all that. So if Escherichia coli is detected, that indicates there is a fecal contamination of the water, water contamination due to human stool. And there are the chances that the organisms like Salmonella, Shigella, some viruses like hepatitis and all those are added into the water. In the sewage, we will find that, and therefore in the treatment plant, you will find the last process, that is the tertiary treatment or late tertiary. We have to deal it, the sewage, with the chemicals like chlorine. So chlorine contact or chlorine doser, that is the integral part of that system. Then the saprophytes, as I mentioned, dead and decaying material, they are also present into this. Some algae, that is chlorella, Botryococcus, Chlamydomonas, Arthospira, these are the algal species. This is very common microorganism found in sewage water or even drinking water treatment plants. Then fungi, Acrimonium, Rhodotorula, Candida, Geotrichum, Cladosporium, Penicillium, Trichophyton. All these fungi also inhabit the sewage treatment plants. This is a common, say, notion. Those have not studied microbiology, or those don't know much about bacteria and viruses, we carry the notion that these organisms, they are always causing some infections or some diseases. I just want to tell here that not all, very few in percentage of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, or even fungi, they has the ability, they have the ability to cause some disease. The medical literature says that disease is a rare consequence of the infection. Infection is common, means entry of the pathogen in the body is common. Entry, there are the stages: entry, then establishment. Establishment of pathogen in the body is must for its multiplication. And once it is multiplied, it may produce some material or may cause harm to the body. That harm is called as, it is reflected in some form. We call it as symptoms, and so it's a disease. It's a disease. So that organism has to enter first into our body. Our body is considered to be an unconquered fort. It is not for easy for that organism to enter into our body. We have got so many immune systems, and even if enters, the immune system is there, and therefore the literature says disease is a rare consequence. It is not very easy for that organism to cause harm in the human body, or even the immunity is also there in the animals. So therefore these fungi, then pathogens, they may be present, and we have to address to them. It is true that we cannot release the water having the presence of salmonella. We have to kill them, which is very easy method. Only we have to expose it to either ultraviolet or to chlorine. Considering the toxicity of the chlorine, now ultraviolet is a very common method that can be used at the fag end of our treatment processes. Then the protozoans, Celiophora, ciliates. There is one important protozoan. Actually, I forgot to put it here in this list. That is Entamoeba coli. Like this is also written as E. coli, but it is a protozoan, Entamoeba coli. and that is also causing amoebiasis in human beings. So that is also present many of the times in drinking water, and even in the sewage, say sewage wastewater. Then the viruses, adenovirus, rotavirus, hepatitis A, noro, Coxsackie virus. Or viruses, because they are obligatory intracellular parasites, they they need the cell, living cell, for their growth, and therefore they need the either human cell or plant cell or even the bacterial cell, because they don't have both the nucleic acids, and therefore they are growing at the expense of some cells. So they are causing some harm to the body. Even polio, that I forgot to write down here, the provided that stool sample of that person carries these organisms, then it will appear into the sewage. Not necessarily these sewage will contain all these organisms. This is a general biota of sewage. The purpose of wastewater treatment is to manage or handle the water discharged from houses, businesses, restaurants, hotels, hospitals, educational institutions, and industries to reduce the water and soil pollution. Uh, some of my students, even at MTech now this year, last year, they were working on solid and hazardous waste, especially from hospitals. And on the backdrop of corona or COVID-19 infections, and the hospitals are geared up to deal with all cases and everything. I personally find that the hospital wastewater is to be taken utmost care or due care. Uh, I don't claim that I know everything what is happening today in Pune or in other corporation cities. You may be knowing that if that water is generally released into the common sewers, common sewerage system, it will be going to sewage treatment plant. Then they will be taken care of. Okay. And if it is not treated and it is going as it is, uh, it will be very difficult to deal with such wastewater and such infections. While working on, say, one containment, virus containment laboratory, we were working on veterinary virus containment laboratory in Pune, Naund. Uh, we were working, or rather designing a system to cater to the water coming out of the virus laboratory, virology, you can say, virology laboratory. Um, the containment laboratory is a very close section. There is no basin into it. Basin is there, but that basin is not for hand wash. There is no tap connection. There is a basin, I must correct it, but there was no tap connection, because no hand wash is allowed over there. Why for the basin is there? Because when we are keeping some material at minus 70 degrees centigrade, we have to thaw it. Once it is taken out from that deep freezer of minus 70, we have to bring it at that temperature, maybe 15 or so, with air conditioners and all that. So that water of condensation, that is actually coming over there, and that water means that material is to be kept to the basin, and that water is collected in the cellar. So there is underground or the basement, you can say. In the basement, there is a big tank made of SS 304. All the water coming out of the virology laboratory, where you are washing hands, or this containment laboratory, class 4. So that water is collected over that tank. That tank is fitted with the electric coils, and we have to heat that to 121 degrees centigrade, keep it for 15 to 20 minutes, and then that water is released into the common sewers, sewerage system of corporation or their own treatment plant, because treatment plant is again mandatory over there. So the hospital's treatment, that is the wastewater, uh, the hospital wastewater is to be taken utmost care, utmost care. Uh, I am not aware what kind of treatment plants they are setting up, or whether they are because solid waste I know. The medical, that is the bio waste, medical bio waste, they are collecting in a separate van and they are taking it for incineration. And corporation is charging them. Even our laboratory in COAP, we were paying some annual charge for collection of the solid waste from our laboratory, that is the applied bioscience or bioengineering laboratory. So in this treatment system, there is a preliminary treatment system. It's the removal of coarse solids. I am just going fast because maybe you have studied this or you may be knowing this. So I am sharing few views of me. Removal of these materials is necessary. That is water discharge from homes, businesses, industries, then rainwater or street. Combined sewers carry both sanitary waste, stormwater. Water moves towards the wastewater plant by gravity, and then lift stations they pump. So sump and pump. That is, if the material is to be carried on the higher side of the slope, the corporations they may create the sump, and then the pumps are installed to pump that water to the treatment plant. Removes large objects and non-degradable materials, protects pump and equipment from damage, and bar screen and grid chambers. I just want to share with you one very wild idea in my mind. I just I have not worked on it. Just wild idea. Like in our childhood, while working, because that time the plastic bottles were not there, so we were many of the times my uh, quarter of my parent, it was on the bank of a river, so we were most of the times we were playing on the river only. No water, no plastic bottle to carry, nothing to carry the water, no. So we used to dig a small ditch there in the sand, and the water percolated where it was allowed to settle down. All the dust particles, the soil particles, they used to settle down, and then we used to drink that water. So this kind of percolation, it is natural. It is natural. We waited for 10 minutes maybe for that water to just get percolated and settle down, and that water which is on the top layer, we used to drink. No chlorine, nothing. So can it be possible to think of an idea to filter the water online? Online. Say, for example, my village is generating the water, say around 50,000 liters a day. So that 50,000 liters a day now is running in the open drain, running in the open drain. If per lane, because there are 3-4 lanes, small village, so 3-4 lanes are there. Per lane, if I lay down the pipes, and in the pipe, if I keep some media, all the processes we will be studying, we will be looking after, discussing after this. If I put some media into all these pipes, there may not be say facility for backwash. We have to think on it, that what kind of technology or technique we should follow. So all the housing complex, while putting their say wastewater through the 4 inches PVC pipes, can it be possible? This is a wild thought that I mean in my mind. I am a microbiologist. I told you I'm not an engineer. So engineers very well can think. Of course, there is a microbial activity into it when we are putting some media online into such pipelines, and at least the preliminary say treatment, maybe the coarse filtration, maybe a microfiltration, and maybe maybe a third stage, the microbial activity, that is a secondary biological treatment, and which will help at least to release that water in sewage treatment plant, which is partially say treated. which is partially treated. In COAP, we have got a treatment facility for the grey water only. One facility is there where black and grey both water are coming. In one, that is only grey water is coming, and we are treating that grey water and then releasing that treated water into PMC sewerage system. Can it be possible uh, that online filtration, like in the borewell, when we are recharging the borewell, we are putting some pipeline, that is the water is collected on the roof, then we are collecting it into pipeline, and then we are putting it into the borewell to avoid any say coarse material, the leaves of the plants, the dust and everything into that. We are setting one filter. That PVC, if is 4-inch diameter, the filter is of 6-inch diameter. So we put the expander and then various say layers of the gravels, the sands, fine sands, and so on. Likewise, is it possible? This is a wild thought. I'm just putting a wild thought in front of you, uh, and we can work on it. So that's the main problem in villages now. Gray water, black water is because once the septic tank is full, there are the vehicles. We have to pay them 2,000 rupees. That is the rate around Pune. They come with that vehicle. They have got a vacuum pump, and they take the whole material in the vacuum and release it somewhere in some agriculture field. So this is one way of that is pre-treatment, you can say. So this is a wild thought. This is not, I don't know this is done anywhere, but in my house in Aurangabad, yes, for the bore recharging, we have put the filter online, and that is how that idea came into my mind. So treatment of wastewater by commercial and industrial facilities to remove harmful materials before being discharged to sewer system. Many of the industries, they are adding some pollutants during their processes. Pollutant means which is undesirable. We don't want that material to be added to be present into the sewage, and therefore this pre-treatment will remove that by either by some chemical method or by some physical processes, and then it will be added into regular traditional or whatever conventional treatment plants. So process of removing contaminants or reclaiming valuable metals and chemicals. In oil industry, if you go, you will find they're extracting everything. They're say refining it with methanol, and then methanol they are reclaiming again. So another process they carry it out to reclaim the methanol. So then the treatment of wastewater by commercial facilities and other non-domestic wastewater sources to remove harmful pollutants before the wastewater is discharged to. That's what I said. Filtration, ultrafiltration, these methods that can be utilized or used for this. Chamber, mesh screens, bar screens. These are the common, say, processes, common unit operations, I should say. These are all depend on the physical principles, and therefore these are the unit operations. So grid chamber is a long, narrow circular tank where uh, the eggshells, bone chips, inert material that is collected. Then mesh screens, the textile items, plastic materials, and then we can keep the flow meter there that record the volume of the water entering the treatment plant. Water samples are taken for BOD, that is influent BOD. Then the bar screen mechanical filter again to filter out the large material. These are the bar screens catches large objects that have gotten into sewer system, bricks, bottles, pieces of wood. This is the wastewater treatment grid chamber, fats, oils, and greases. Very, very important. Uh, I must share this experience with you. Uh, what has happened in COAP that we have put a system there, as I mentioned, of Novatech, and so we have a huge ladies hostel, 11-story ladies hostel, where the accommodation was almost 600 of girls, and a maze at the ground floor catering to girls only, 600 girls. And the kitchen was there. So kitchen water was not separated. kitchen water coming out, that is the washing utensil. There was a separate room for the utensil washing, and that water got mixed with this grey water only. So grey water was separated. We wanted to treat that grey water, and that grey water was coming. The one chamber was made. That that was a flowing pipe, and the chamber was there. We have found after some days that the water is not flowing. We have opened the chamber, and to our surprise, we have found that all these fats and oils which were used in the kitchen, they have come on the top, and the layer was so hard. We have to use breaker to break that. It was so hard, and then we have understood that this skimming tank or skimming of this fats and oil is necessary in the treatment plant. Anywhere we are collecting this is a again a major problem in restaurants and the hotels. I don't know, but at present, as far as my knowledge and my information goes, the hotels and restaurants in any big city, metro city, they are releasing that water into the sewerage system, and then it is coming over here, fats, oil. What is the significance of this, or rather we can say disadvantage of this? Once the upper layer that has been sealed by, I should say sealed by fats and oils, the oxygen is depleted, oxygen is not available for the microbial cells, and those microbial cells then will not be able to carry out and decompose the organic matters so as to reduce the BOD. And therefore the so depending again, so it comes again depending upon the characteristic of sewage, from where that sewage is coming, the source of the sewage. We have to design the uh, plant. So scheming, that is removal of these fats and oils, may not be necessary if the quantity is very less, because this is the material which is as far as microbial degradation is concerned, carbohydrates are more easier, more simpler for the decomposition by bacteria and even other microorganisms. Second is, then comes the proteins. So proteins, they are big chains of amino acids, and the carbohydrates are chains of sugars. Then the proteins, they get degraded, and at last the fats, they get degraded, or the oils, they get degraded, and therefore the time also, retention time or the time for the degradation also increases. So we have to retain that material for more period of time, and moreover it is very difficult to degrade depending upon its chemical characteristics. And therefore this material, again some wild thoughts that come in the mind, how online we can filter these fats and oils and greases separately. um, because of its buoyancy, they come up on the top. So can it be possible to separate out before it enters into the sewage system or sewerage system? Somewhere we have centralized sewerage or sewage treatments or sewage treatment plants. We have not in Pune, maybe per ward one or two, three ward one plant maybe there. I don't know. But this is one very important aspect which I have experienced during my field work in COAP while commissioning that plant. So this is primary treatment, that I must not go in details of it. Incoming raw sewage, then screens that separate out the large particles, grid chambers, and then the sedimentation tank. So sludge is separate here. The sludge is separated out, and that plant is it's a sedimentation, or you can say primary settling tank also, you can say, for this, and then the water is coming. I just want to share another very interesting story with you. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Hello.
You are audible, sir.
Ah,
yes, sir, you are audible.
okay. So, so in offline mode, you all are teachers in offline mode. At least we know how, whether I'm going to you or not. But here on online, it is very difficult to know. Okay, so very
Yes, sir. Yes,
interesting.
sir. It is the course.
Okay, it's very interesting story. One company wanted to donate their what you I can should say research plant for the biogas production, and they were saying that this is the technology from one German scientist, and he came to our, and they just wanted to donate it. 22 lakhs was the cost, and that plant that company was having was supposed to run on the um, mess restaurant west. That we have a huge mess. So 5 messes where there is a UAP hostel campus. Almost 250 kilograms of say waste was generated every day, leftovers and everything. So they said we will set up this plant. So when that person came to me, I just talked to him. I said this will not be feasible only on restaurant or hotel waste or food waste. No, no, no. This is the technology we have. I said okay, no problem. So, but I was very sure. The reason being, I tell you, the logic was very simple. We are Indians, we eat more masalas, more spices. And all the most of the spices, I shouldn't say all, but most of the spices, they are antimicrobial. All these cloves and everything, pepper. So all these spices we add, it's a mess. No, the young boys they and in Maharashtra, so the spices, the chili, the everything was more. And I said this will not good, or this will create unfavorable conditions in the reactor, because it was an anaerobic type of reactor where the oxygen was not allowed. So that food waste was pulverized, slurry was made. That slurry was pumped with a mud pump to that reactor. Then reactor temperature, again there was a big issue of the temperature. So in winter time, I said, what is the temperature inside? Because it is they need ambient temperature. Maybe they are all mesophilic, that is growing at 15 degrees to 40 45 degrees centigrade. So ambient temperature they need. The temperature is dropped, and therefore at 10 degrees, 12 degrees, the organism, that microbiome or microbiota, it will not work because it's a mixed culture. It's a very big ecosystem there inside. So they again after commissioning in our campus, they have cladded it with the cladding. So with say with clad, they have clad it, so temperature, at least insulation, the temperature was maintained. And for almost 3 years, every all parameters were recorded, even by hostel authorities as well by that company. And then with all those pumps fitted, the 5 HP, then heating that for insulation, you have to heat. So there are 5,000 kilowatt coil was there, and then there was a separate electric meter we have installed, and we have found that this is not feasible. It is not energy efficient, and we cannot simply saying that we have got a biogas plant will not make us the green campus. No, we have to see the financial aspects also. And therefore in any treatment plant, as I was mentioning, that I have some wild thoughts online. If we can make, already we are laying down the pipes. The simple thing is we have to modify that pipe, and we must have a window to take out that media, to clean it and again replace it, and the rest of the work that microorganisms will do. Then there is aeration tank. Then this is again aerobic one. We can also have that sludge digestion is anaerobic. Biogas, the same thing. Methane gas is generated, and that gas, that biogas which was coming from our biogas plant, we wanted that at least it will cater to one mess. So per mess every day, almost 25 kg of liquid petroleum gas we were using. So we thought that 100, say 1,500 or 2,000 rupees we can save by this biogas. But that biogas is having carbon dioxide. So you need the say you have to scrap that CO2. Then you need a CO2 scrapper for that. Again, a water column, pass that. So it was adding up into the finances. And financially, that model was not viable. Unless you have the natural cow dung to be added into that plant. To start that biogas, we added almost 200 kg of, say, cow dung every time when to install that say, commission that reactor. And if that reactor will not be loaded with the nutrients, means the food waste. In vacation, only one mess was running. So 250 kg, 250 kg in 5 out of 5 messes was not sufficient to cater to, or not sufficient for those that microbial load or biomass to run or to carry out all the metabolic processes there. And therefore we have the oil trap, then the moisture trap, but was not feasible. Same thing is happening in this digester. It's also a reactor. It's a bioreactor, we can say. And most of the time, you must have made the observation that government, all agriculture department in most of the states, as far as Maharashtra is concerned, I know since maybe 30 years back, also 3-4 decades back, government has a scheme of installing this biogas. They call it as gobar gas into every house, because that time the livestock was more. Nowadays livestock is not there in every house. So biogas plants, they are now defunct. Very few biogas or you can say gobar gas plants are working. The reason being, we have not understood the microbial activity. We must understand. It is simple. I'll tell you the best example. All will understand instantly. I want to set up the curd in my house. So what is the SOP? The SOP is simple. I take the milk, whatever the quality, whether it is, but if it is good quality curd I'll get. I have a milk. I heat it, make it lukewarm. Okay. I don't have, because I am running a microbiology lab. I may have thermometer at my disposal. But in our houses, we just put a finger. If it is too hot, we let it cool for some time. So it must be lukewarm, maybe 40 degrees temperature. Then we take the curds from the previous curds, one say spoonful, and we mix it well. And we cover it and keep it at ambient temperature. You will find that in summer season, in summer, the curd set quickly, maybe 8 hours or so. And in winter season, it will take more time, because that temperature is also important for that microbe or that microbial culture for setup. And if I keep that curds as it is there, you will find that some growth that appears, then it starts drying up on the surface, then some wrinkled surface that appears, then it stings, it is having offensive odor, then the flies will start get attracted towards it, and then we have to throw it out. The same thing happened in our biogas and in every biogas for that matter. That loading of the organic matter, may that be a reactor into sewage treatment plant, or may that be reactor in biogas in our houses, or may that be a curd setting. We must understand that microbial cells, they need that because see, that each bacteria has got a generation time. Means that every after that time it gets doubled. It is called binary fission. So for binary fission, for that bacteria to divide, that bacteria has to metabolize everything that it needs. Okay, the DNA also is duplicated. Then that cell breaks up. Each cell receives everything equally. DNA, RNA, everything it will. So each cell will independently start working. So this generation time, even in sewage treatment, this generation time is fixed for every bacterium. Maybe here, for example, Escherichia coli divides in 20 minutes. Maybe some cells will divide at 19.5, some will divide at 20.5. But this is the range. 20 minutes, they will get doubled. So the whole biomass, single bacteria I'm talking, it gets doubled in 20 minutes. So when it is 10 to the power of 10 number, you can imagine what is the number. And those many cells, they are metabolizing to divide. They are carrying out all these reactions to divide. They have to synthesize everything. They have to manufacture. I usually say, to understand, they manufacture. They manufacture their cell wall, they manufacture their cell membrane, they manufacture their DNA, RNA, everything. And for that, they need the nutrients. They need the substrates. And these substrates are provided in wastewater treatment facility through the sewage, because there are the dissolved material, organic matters, colloidal substances present in that sewage water, which acts as the substrate for this microbial society, microbial population, microbiome, or you can say the microbial ecosystem. This is ecosystem. And in nature, you will not find a single organism, no pure culture. It will be a mixed culture. And this tanks may be activated sludge process, maybe trickling filter, maybe rotating contactors, maybe membrane reactors, maybe MBBR, anything, sludge digestion. This, wherever these microorganisms are coming or microbial community is coming, we have to understand what should be the substrate load into it, and what is the load we are handling of the microorganism. So this microorganism itself is organic. So the living cells as well as the dead cells contributing to the BOD of the sewage, and therefore the cells, they should come out of the reactor. So if I want that curds every day, so I have to either keep it in the refrigerator at that temperature to stop, to hold the activities of the organism, or to transfer it to the new substrate, new milk utensil. Then I can maintain that culture. Same thing is happening here in any wastewater treatment. Whenever there are, that is, I'm talking of secondary treatment, that is the biological treatment. These treatments, screens, grid, is all preliminary or based on the physical processes. And therefore, biological wastewater treatment is designed to degrade pollutants dissolved in effluents by the action of microbes. The microbes utilize these substances, aerobic, anaerobic, facultative. Facultative means in both, like they also were carrying out their metabolism in presence as well as in absence of oxygen. Then anoxic processes convert nitrate nitrogen to nitrogen gas in absence of oxygen. That is denitrification process. At the same time, there is a group of organisms which converts, that is oxidizes. This is anaerobic condition, anoxic processes. In aerobically, some bacteria converts ammonical nitrogen, that is ammonia, NH3, to nitrite and then to nitrate. So that is nitrification. This is nitrate to nitrogen, that is denitrification in absence of oxygen. And therefore, in many of the processes, whenever there is a sedimentation, sludge is settled down, the anaerobic processes, that also is getting done, and on the top of it, where it is coming in contact with oxygen, the oxygen, that is aerobic processes, is carried out. This is very common in ponds or lakes, where on the surface the aerobic activity is going on, somewhere below that facultative activity is going on, and at the bottom anaerobic activity is going on. And then the suspended growth process, activated sludge, aerated lagoons, oxygen ditches, very common. I was talking this only. What was the treatment? Years together we are generating this wastewater. Centuries, what should I say? In the history cesspools, the walls, particularly in UK, this treatment and this was started in European countries. And therefore, then attached growth or fixed film processes, trickling filter, rotating biological contactor, membrane bioreactor, MBBR, anaerobic filters. So many of us had a great fall when walking on the riverside, because it is very slippery. And that slippery is nothing but the attached growth onto the gravel. So microbial activity is to be considered in wastewater treatment. So BOD of water, polluted water or wastewater is the quantity of dissolved oxygen required by microorganism for oxidation of carbonaceous biodegradable organic matter present in the liquid. As I mentioned, carbohydrates, proteins, etc. So BOD at the 5 days activity should be equal to less than 30 mg per liter for disposal in sewerage system. Depending that it depends, there are several parameters. As I mentioned, the permissible limits that SPCB, that is State Pollution and Central Pollution Board, they decide that what should be the permissible limit for the release of this wastewater or polluted water into the stream bodies. So permissible suspended solid is 100 mg. Then COD is test that measures the amount of oxygen to chemically oxidize. This will oxidize organic matter as well as inorganic one. BOD is for organic one, and therefore COD value in general COD value will be more than BOD for the same wastewater sample. So measurement of suspended solids and BOD indicate the effectiveness of treatment processes. And the major processes which are involved: dissolution of oxygen into liquid, aeration, turbulent mixing of reactor wastewater and biomass, absorption of organic matter by activated sludge, that is biomass, molecular diffusion of dissolved and solid or nutrient into activated biomass. This I have discussed. That is why I'm going a little faster. That is a biological flock. If you have studied the activated sludge process, where there is a forced aeration, not less than maybe I think 5 HP, 7.5 HP motors, they are forcing air into that sewage water. And with this forced aeration, that biomass that has been developed, that is called as flock, and that flock is settled down. This say principally this biofloc mechanism nowadays is used in inland fisheries. In the tank, the people are growing in this technology. People are growing the edible fishes. Chilapi, then mangur is not allowed; it is banned. But chilapi is common fish that has been grown by this biofloc mechanism, where the fecal matter of the fish and the substrate, that is a nutrient we are adding, and forced aeration is there, and the feed to what you say FCR, that is feed conversion ratio or feed conversion rate, is always high in this biofloc technology. First developed in maybe Indonesia or in Eastern countries. Some says it is in Israel, but this is the biomass, same biofloc that has been formed in activated sludge process. So absorption of organic matter on biomass, molecular diffusion of dissolved oxygen, basic metabolism, that is cell synthesis I was telling, then auto-oxidation of cells, endogenous respiration. That cells they die, that is because of this endogenous respiration, that is self-death of that bacteria. Autolysis it is called as, or auto-oxidation you can say. So the live cells also add up to the organic matters of that wastewater, as well as the dead cells also contributes to the increase in this organic matter. But dead cells are further metabolized by these live cells if they are into the proximity, because microbes, they are producing so many enzymes, and these enzymes, they ultimately utilize these dead cells also, and they convert it into simpler compounds. So ultimate products of this bacterial metabolism will be CO2 and water, because all these activities may be starting from enterodermal pathway, then TCA, and all those pathways that will lead to CO2 and say water plus energy, that is ATP, for their own synthesis. They say for binary fission they need not only oxygen. Oxygen is needed as a terminal acceptor, because that electron is constantly moving, and therefore they need that oxygen for picking up that electron. You can say H2, and therefore the H2O2 is generated. So release of carbon dioxide from active cell mass, so and the lysis of decomposition of dead cells. This happens. This is constantly going on. So this kinetics of the substrate utilization, substrate addition firstly, then the growth of the cells, that is the synthesis of the cells, and then the utilization of this substrate. So this ratio of the addition of the substrate, then the release, that is that flock that is coming out of the treatment plant or that process, unit process, that is to be managed properly. That is to be managed properly. If the flow is more faster, we are not giving time of retention. That is time for retention. That is the cell retention time. So that cell has to be retained on because it's a continuous process. In what you say, in fermentation or in microbial reactions, we generally carry out the processes in two ways. One is a batch reactor and one is a continuous reactor. So the sewage treatment or water treatment facilities, these are the continuous say reactors. And in continuous reactors, in the major that unit process, whether it is activated sludge, whether it is RBC or whatever, we have to retain that say the cells into that, and that number of the cells should be optimal. So we have to manage that to that extent that whatever substrates or that sewage which is coming along with that soluble organic matter must be made available for the cells. Cells are growing at its say logarithmic phase. This is the normal growth phase or growth curve of microorganisms. Okay. The first is whenever we are commissioning any sewage treatment plant, it will take time for that micro or biofilm to generate or to form. Whether it is whatever it's a suspended growth or attached growth, whatever process unit process we are using, it will need some lag phase for the organisms to get accustomed, acclimatized with that particular environment. Then because we are not if it is activated sludge, many times the flocks from the previous process we are adding into it. But whenever we are commissioning this system, so lag phase is required. And once that lag phase is over, means that organisms acclimatization phase of adjustment is over, it will enter into exponential phase, because here the number doubles very fast, because the organisms, they are producing the enzymes, then their what you say relations, interrelations of the other species of the microorganism present in that ecosystem, that is very important. That is very important. Most of these ecosystems, they are synergistic in its way, symbiotic as well as synergistic. There are 2-3 say we can say categories. One is, we know the parasitic one, where the parasites, they are there, and if the parasites are more in that particular environment ecosystem, the host will definitely die, and the host will not be able to carry out the metabolism either at its means its maximum way. Very interesting, just because in this connection, the report is that in Ganga water, the water of river Ganga, this Vibrio cholerae, they are not growing, or they are not living for more time. The reason being, now this is a very old report, this is not new, maybe 3-4 decades back report it is. Maybe because of this pollution, that is sewage pollution, wastewater pollution, the phages, that is the viruses growing on that bacteria, they are more, and that is what this Vibrio phages, they were more, and because of that, this host, that is the bacterial cell, were not growing. So here, if the in that ecosystem, if it is parasitic one, then it is a problem. But if it is synergistic, helping each other, and symbiotic, giving and taking, so if both ways they are living, so the growth is exponential. And this green, you can say the dashed lines, this is theoretical growth. The theoretical growth means if the constantly the substrates are added, the organisms will grow exponentially theoretically. This theoretical say statement, or you can say assumption, is that Escherichia coli, which is growing, doubling at 20 minutes time, will create a mass, that is a biomass of its own, Escherichia coli, in 72 hours, if it is provided with whatever substrate it is required, more than the mass of the earth. This is again the theoretical growth. Okay, practically anywhere in any ecosystem, in any whether it is aquatic, whether it is terrestrial, any ecosystem, this never happens because this cells are dying and those cells are coming out of that ecosystem. Same sewage treatment plant is also ecosystem, and more of the cells are coming out of that. Same is the case is the ruminant animals, cows and buffaloes. They are constantly eating cellulose, then they are again mixing it with their saliva. They have 4 quarters, that is 4 chambers. These are the fermentation vats only. They are fermentation vats. So many, very interestingly, the amino acid requirement of cows is internalized, because all those dead cells, dead microbial cells, they act as amino acid source, and it is absorbed there itself. So, and majority of them, they are coming into the cow dung, and that is why the composting is facilitated. The biogas production anaerobically is facilitated because of those organisms present in the rumen and then appearing shaded out into the dung. So then comes the stationary phase. If the substrate inlet or influent is not properly managed, these cells, they will go into the stationary phase, and it means their metabolism is lingered, slower down, and ultimately they will enter. This is called exponential death phase. Once they enter into this death phase, the death is very fast. The death of the microbes, particularly bacteria, because majority of these reactions are carried out by bacteria. So that's why I'm talking of bacteria only. So death of bacteria is defined as loss of ability of that bacteria to divide. Death of that bacteria is ability. They have lost this ability. They are unable to divide. That is called death. I always tell my students, I don't define death in human beings. The definition of death is very difficult to explain also. Maybe people have to go in Himalaya, make penance, and then only, I don't know whether they will understand. So we will understand more on biofilm. Is a complex structure of microbiome having different bacterial colonies or single type of cells in a group adhere to the surface. Very interesting example. To understand this is very, our small plaque on the dental the teeth, that is dental plaque, it is called. This is nothing but a biofilm. This is having very great significance in hospital environment. Majority of these hospital, say, what do you think, equipments, they develop these biofilms. Huge work is going on this, that many pathogenic organisms, what are the organism having the ability to grow in this biofilm. The reason being, I'll tell you, not all organisms, they will make the biofilm. Each organism or bacterial group as such, a fungal group as such, they require certain amount of water, that is called as water activity. That is called as, or AW. So water activity, as per that value, 1.0 is for water. As you go on adding some solutes into it, it gets reduced 0.95, 0.9895, and so on and so forth. And bacteria need very dilute solutions, dilute aquatic environment for their growth. And therefore 0.995 to 9697, they grow. The fungi, they need little drier environment, and therefore they grow at still lower fungi and yeast, like Candida, that in the list that Candida is mentioned. So 0.85, 7, 9, etc., etc., the values for the fungi of the water activity or AW. And therefore, this biofilm, they need at least maybe the water of, that is the humidity. If it is more, we will find that the growth also is more of the bacteria. So for the biofilm, if it is completely dried surface, the biofilm production will be hampered, will not be there. So these are the embedded in extracellular polymeric substances, that is exopolysaccharides, or EPS it is called as. Matrix which is generally composed of, that is environmental DNA. eDNA means proteins and polysaccharides, and they show high resistance to antibiotics. In pharma industry or in any pharma where the antibiotics and chemicals are made, we need to design the wastewater treatment plants considering the appearances of these antibiotics and chemicals in their wastewater, because anyway there some utensils, some reactors need to be washed and so on. So this wastewater will definitely show the presence of all this. Then thickness of the aerobic zone is limited by the depth of penetration of oxygen, and therefore at the very core of it, that is on the surface, and when the film is growing on the top of it, at the core of it, sometimes anaerobic say environment or condition is created. So and the thickness, so when it grows on in size, this microfilm or biofilm, it is also called as zooglial film. It is also called as zooglial film. So some it is called slowing off. So either in the backwash, what is happening, that loosely attached film or loosely attached bacteria, they get washed into the backwash when we backwash the filter in the trickling filter and so on. So the thickness of the biofilm or slime layer depends on organic loading used for the design, and normally decreases with increase in the strength of wastewater. So this is biofilm, which is very important in suspended growth as well as attached growth processes. Then bioreactor refers to any manufacture. हम घर में दही भी जमाते हैं तो that's a bioreactor. So whatever in any, say if you biogas making that complete cylinder and with the cover, and that is bioreactor. So it refers to any manufactured device or system that supports biologically active environment. That is important. It refers to device or system designed to grow cells or tissues in the context of cell culture. These devices are being developed for use in tissue engineering or bioprocess engineering. This is the definition I have got from bioprocess engineering reference. And this is the activated process. New generation I was mentioning, is third, injected with large quantities of air, and this is there is a great decrease in BOD by these methods. Then this is the trickling filter. We can have the gravel, the sands. Same is used in water treatment also. Water treatment plant, same is backwash and all those films which get attached to it. You will also find this in all filters, whether it is pressure sand filters or PSF, or it is activated coal or ACF, activated coal filters. You will find that there is a formation of biofilm. The size of the biofilm depth of the biofilm may vary. So this is strictly filter attached growth biofilm covering the bed. This film is called zooglial film also. And this is the membrane bioreactor. This is very commonly used along with activated sludge, and particularly on the ships and cruises, this membrane bioreactor are very efficiently used. This is low pressure microfiltration or ultrafiltration. So these are the small fibers, tubular fibers, and through which that wastewater is filtered. So hollow fiber, spiral wound, then plate and frame, and then the whole system is put into one cassette, one big frame, that is one container, that is called as cassette. So this is placed in the cassette, and then it is kept into the activated sludge process, or separately also, side arm also, and even as an integral part of activated sludge. So black and gray water passes through the automatic screen and into the first stage bioreactor, degrades organic matter, the active biomass is pumped away. So this is membrane reactor. This is the schematic diagram. Primary effluent, then anoxic zone, that is anaerobic zone, aerobic zone, and this is the membrane equipment you can see at the end, and then the permeate or effluent. So like filtrate, it is permeate, and this is rotating biological contactor, very efficient method. And this is another wild thought. Can we install this into the running, say, wastewater? Can we install it in running wastewater? That is another wild thought. This is attached growth type. Plastic material is there. You can. This is like giving so many spaces for the organisms to get adhere to, attach to, and form the biofilm. Then moving or MBBR. This MBBR is also many of you must have. This is the media made of polystyrene and the plastic material. It is. You can see that inside also some grooves are made, and in this groove the biofilm that has been developed. The huge quantity of this media that is put into. You can see modification of activated sludge process, forced aeration into the aeration chamber, and this media. It is membrane bioreactor, moving bed biofilm reactor. So in that reactor, these beds are moving. They are loose. They are just placed into it, and they are vigorously. This has been mixed. So this is the advantage of MBBR technology. Complete solid removal. VOD is drastically down by this. So activated sludge plus MBBR. That is the method generally been used. And this is now in. I think we are running short of time. Actually, frankly speaking, I was under tension that whether I can I have the material to talk for 2 hours, but now only 15 minutes. I have to go. So anyway, this is the COAP hostel treatment plant and system. For that, I acknowledge and I thank to COAP authorities that they have allowed me to work on this, and being means by virtue of I being chief rector, I also was and being a microbiologist working in this domain, I was also interested to work on this particular aspect. So this is the department, as I mentioned, Department of Science and Technology. Navatech is a company. They have installed this. Can you see? I think the letters may not be. Can you see at least the figures?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You can see the figures. Okay. These are some boards that actually they have put into in other PowerPoint presentation. I have this map in as a slide, but okay, that may not be possible short of time, paucity of time. So this location, see, COAP, you may be knowing, is at the center place of Pune, and we have a high crunch of the place, and therefore there were 2 units we have installed in. This is decentralized treatment, DTS. That stands for decentralized treatment system. So from C, D, E, F, G, H, I, these are the blocks of the boys hostel, and they have installed this decentralized treatment system 100, and this is plant. What was the idea of this system? I that just explain you this figure. The idea was to have a combination of anaerobic and aerobic systems. Anaerobic system was the anaerobic baffled reactor, then anaerobic filter, and the aerobic system was the planted gravel filter, that is PGF. So planted gravel filter was the aerobic system, and in that anaerobic baffled reactor, almost 10 compartments that was made. You can see the last slide into it. Schematic diagram of anaerobic baffled reactor. In this, there was inlet. Then this material, actually the sewage, it was having girls hostel coming from A and GHB. This is discharged in. So it's a mixed water from GHB. So grey water as well as black water, it was coming. And in the first, as you go on into this baffled, it's like a septic tank. The individual single dwelling units, the septic tank, the same thing is here. It is baffled, so it's anaerobic baffled reactor. And then the anaerobic settler was also there initially. The sludge was settled down, and the advantage or the fineness of this, which I liked most, is energy requirement was very less, because most of that sludge is completely digested. No, the only disadvantage of this system that I found was every 3 years you have to go for operation and maintenance. That is, you have to take out all the sludge. And the other thing that was installed here was a wall of the plastic bottles. The throw away our Bisleri, this mineral water bottles, that was a wall was actually tied up, and that was rested into this baffled reactor, so as to give more and more place for the biofilm to form. And the water which was coming then coming out from the outlet, it was taken for the filtration into planted gravel filter. The plastic sheet into that, so we have constructed it was a constructed wetland, you can say, in short. And then we have put the plastic at the bottom, then the gravels, and then the water was sprinkled onto it. This is the you can see the complete slab. The chambers are, you can see here, and that is a baffled reactor. That complete tank was a baffled reactor. This is the planted you can see the drip that water was irrigated onto this. You can see the plastic sheet is been laid down. The gravels are laid down. So these plants are growing in the gravel itself, gravel and small sand. You can see the sand also. So on the left side, this Canna indica. In Marathi, we can call kardal. So it is a Canna indica, and this is another. This is another plant that is over there. In Marathi, it is called boru. I forgot its name. And this is also growing on the left. And this is the state in which this is a doser. This is a chlorine doser, and these are the tanks in which the treated water is collected. And this is a pressure sand filter or PCF. This water is filtered, and then this is the, you can see below that electrical control unit, there is a UV unit. So it is exposed to ultraviolet, and then this water is collected into these tanks, syntax tanks, 20,000 liters. And from here, with the motors, they are pumped into the toilet blocks for flushing. This water was used only for flushing and gardening. So it was not used for basin and bathrooms, but in latrines only for flush, and almost 1.5 lakhs of liters of water every day that was been purified or treated, and then it was filtered through pressure sand filters, and then UV treated, and then it is supplied to hostel blocks for flushing. So these are the figures for this. These are the acknowledgements, and thank you. So I'm afraid that we have only 10 minutes for question and answers. I'm available on my phone, on my mail. You can ask me, you can call me anytime. Like, I have not seen you, I don't know your names, but you all are my comrades, because we belong to same group that is of teaching fraternity. So you can I am also learning so many things. As I am putting wild thought means I am also learning. So if you have any question, just because, see, I want to learn from you also, because I am not expert in all of these things.
I formally thanks, sir. Thank you, Ranjika sir. We are very much thankful for sharing your experience of the about the projects that you have done in the rural areas And in fact, in COEP, you have shown the complete pics also, and that will be actually very helpful to the young faculty, that they can gain insights from your experience and will help them to think in direction of working on different projects basically. So
Yes, yes.
platform is open for all to ask their questions. Participants can also write down their questions. We'll try to cover if the time permits. So we'll also try to take up the questions that are written over here, and you can ask the questions otherwise also.
Close yes.
Yes, any queries?
Madam, I just want to before I close, Abhinandan, how was the overflow of water managed? So you have to design the plant accordingly. No, overflow must not be there. You are talking of overflow in COAP plant, Abhinandan.
Yes, yes, sir. He said yes, that he is talking about in COE.
Yes, yes. It's see overflow. As I mentioned, we have two systems. One, the grey water we were treating, and we are releasing into that overflow was released into the PMC sewerage system. So we were releasing the treated water into sewerage system. That was one overflow. And the grey water and black water, once it is treated, and we are not using it, like in rainy season for gardening, we did not want that water. So it is released into overflow. It was released into common sewerage system of corporation. Have I convinced you, Abhinandan? Yeah. So it is good. No, we are reducing the load on treatment plants. So I hope I have shared some of the views which are of your interest with you.
So you have shared a lot of your experiences, in fact.
Madam, much work is, see, because when I'm staying in the village and looking at the, see, particularly the peri-urban villages, we were called in Jilla Parishad, and that were deputy CEOs, chief executive officer, who was working, because the last government in Maharashtra, they have come up with like Namami Gange was a scheme launched by central government. So Maharashtra government also have launched Namami Chandrabhaga. That is the river flowing from Pune and then to Pandharpur, our pilgrimage center. So the villages on the banks, river banks, they were releasing every day. 50 villages were, no, so not 50, 28, 30 villages were releasing almost 5 lakhs of liters of wastewater every day into the river. And they wanted us to give them very what you say, economically feasible alternative, not the big treatment plants. So this is a very big domain where young scientists can work. Can we achieve water recycling up to the level of drinkable water? Uh, so when the wastewater is released into the river, the next cities treating that water, isn't it? Possibly, if we can remove the odor, because what happens in the sewage, removal of the odor is a concern. Major concern. BOD, yes, we can bring down the BOD. Organic matters we can release quite to the permissible limit. But the pathogens, that is the UV treatment and the chlorine treatment, must be proper to kill the organisms.
Okay, I think, sir, there are no further questions. So
So
I would
thanks.
like to, yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Vandana. All others, I can see Tushar, Sharmaji, Ilajit, Seni, Sampath, and few names here on my screen. So thank you very much. I hope that I have communicated to you all my experiences and few things I have shared. Okay, you can be in touch with me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And I
Thank you,
put on
sir.
record I put on record my thanks to Department of Technology and Dr. Somnath, Dr. Swapnil, and all others who has actually arranged this FTP and helped me to be there in the and invited me to talk to you. So it was a great opportunity for me to talk to you. Thank you very much. Hello,
Thank
Somnath.
you, sir, for
Thank
your
you
kind words.
thank you,
Thank you for your kind words, sir.
thank you.
Really appreciate the vast tactical exposure you have given, and that actually tells that what are the challenges and how we can, and that is sustainability. So we cannot give solution overnight.
Yes.
But what are the points we need to focus and how we can do a better? And you have actually given that proper talk in this light. So really appreciate, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And sir, if you don't mind, so sir, if you can share your PDF copy of the slides, because that will be useful.
Everything is, yes, Dr. Somnath, everything is ready. After this lecture, I'll send
Sure.
it within 5 minutes. Yes.
Take your time, sir. No issue, because
Whatever
there are substantial
your
material.
order, no, your order, sir.
Sir, it's not order.
Okay,
It's
whatever. No.
kindness. Because it's your
Okay, no problem.
brainchild. It's your
No.
okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
kind of you.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
Shall I leave the meeting?
Over to you, madam. Yes. Over to
Yes.
madam.
So we formally thanks Ranjika sir a lot. He has shared a lot of experiences of it, and this will give everyone different dimensions to think about, because he has shared from his pool of knowledge, the experiences that he has done, the project he has done in COP, the project he has done in rural areas, and it was a pool of knowledge. It will be very helpful to the young faculty. So we sincerely thank you, sir. And thank you everyone for attending the session. So next session is at 3 o'clock. So we hope to see you all at 3 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjika sir.